Dr. Nadia Volkov's private laboratory stood isolated in the Nevada desert, exactly the refuge they needed. As Elliot's former mentor and a controversial figure in theoretical physics, she had every reason to distrust government authorities and resources enough to help them. So, Nadia said after Elliot made hasty introductions, her eyes fixed on Thera. "You're claiming she's an extraterrestrial time manipulator who needs to save multiple universes?" Her Russian accent thickened with skepticism. "I can prove it," Thera said calmly, allowing her disguise to slip just enough to reveal her true eyes. Nadia's scientific curiosity quickly overwhelmed her disbelief. Within hours, she'd cleared her schedule and dedicated her lab to helping Thera construct what she called a temporal stabilization matrix. For 3 days, they worked almost continuously, Elliot translating Thera's complex theoretical concepts into terms Nadia could apply with Earth technology. The connection between Elliot and Thera deepened further, through touch, through shared purpose, through the night hours when they lay together, her alien skin luminescent in the darkness. On the 4th day, as the device began taking shape, Elliot noticed something alarming: tiny fracture lines appearing on Thera's skin, like crystal beginning to crack. "You're dying," he realized with horror when they were alone. "This atmosphere is killing you." Thera nodded, touching the spreading network of fissures along her arm. "Molecular disintegration. My physical form is incompatible with prolonged exposure to your world." "Why didn't you tell me?" Elliot demanded, grief already constricting his throat. "Because there was no alternative," she replied simply. "Complete the mission or watch both our worlds dissolve into temporal chaos." That night, as they lay entwined in the small bedroom of Nadia's guest house, Thera pressed her hand to Elliot's chest, establishing their deepest connection yet. Through their bond, he experienced her world in vivid detail: the crystalline cities, the society built around temporal awareness, the catastrophic fractures that had begun consuming entire continents. "My tears," she whispered as silvery droplets slid down her cheeks, "contain concentrated chronon particles, fragments of my consciousness interfacing with time itself." Elliot caught one on his fingertip, watching in awe as it spiraled and shifted, containing what seemed like entire galaxies in microscopic form. "They're beautiful," he murmured. "They're keys," Thera corrected. "Each tier contains a fragment of temporal code, the building blocks of reality." Understanding dawned slowly. "The device you're building, it needs these, doesn't it?" "Parts of you." "Yes," she acknowledged. "My essence must be the binding element that holds the fracturing timelines together." The realization of what this meant struck Elliot like physical pain. "You're not planning to return to your world. This is a suicide mission." Instead of answering, Thera kissed him with desperate intensity, her body melding with his in a way that blurred the boundaries between them. For precious hours, they existed within a bubble of suspended time, lovers from incompatible worlds finding harmony in each other's arms. The peace shattered at dawn with the arrival of military helicopters. Somehow, they had been tracked. "They're here for me," Thera said calmly as they watched black-clad figures surrounding the compound. "I must complete the device now, or everything is lost." As Nadia created a diversion at the front of the lab, Elliot helped Thera activate the partially completed matrix. The crystalline structure hummed with escalating energy as Thera pressed her hand against it, her tears flowing freely now, absorbed directly into the mechanism. "I need more time," she whispered urgently as pounding began at the laboratory door. "Then take it," Elliot said, placing his hand over hers on the device. "Take whatever you need from me." Their eyes met in perfect understanding as the door burst open and armed figures rushed in. Thera's free hand pressed against Elliot's chest, and the world around them slowed to a crawl, soldiers frozen mid-step, dust particles suspended in air, even light itself seeming to condense into visible rays. In that suspended moment, Thera's eyes held a question that transcended language. "Yes," Elliot answered, knowing exactly what she asked. "Whatever comes next, my answer is yes." Time resumed its normal flow for everyone else when Thera completed the final sequence. The soldiers who had burst into the laboratory found themselves confronting a luminescent field that encircled Thera and Elliot like a transparent bubble. "Step away from the alien entity, Professor Mason," the commander ordered, weapons trained on them. Elliot stood his ground beside Thera, whose true form was now fully visible, her skin pulsing with inner light, those strange geometric patterns flowing across her body like living circuitry. "You don't understand what's happening here," Elliot shouted. "She's trying to save all of us." The temporal matrix between them had grown into a complex crystalline structure that floated unsupported, spinning slowly as it absorbed Thera's tears. With each droplet, the fracture lines on her skin spread further. The device is stabilizing, she told Elliot quietly. But complete fusion requires a decision. Outside their bubble, Nadia was arguing frantically with the soldiers, buying precious seconds. Through the window, Elliot could see more military vehicles arriving. What decision? He asked, though part of him already knew. Thera placed both hands on the matrix, which responded by pulsing in sync with her heartbeat. The anchor point must be maintained from both sides of the temporal divide. Someone must return to my world to complete the connection. Take me with you, Elliot said without hesitation. Thera's expression held both joy and sorrow. The transit would kill a human. Your molecular structure would collapse. Then how? There is one possibility, she interrupted, her voice dropping to a whisper. A partial temporal fusion. Part of me remains here, bound to the Earth anchor. Part of you travels with me, bound to my world's matrix. She pressed her forehead to his, and through their connection, Elliot understood. Neither of them would be wholly themselves again. Each would carry fragments of the other, existing simultaneously in two realities. We would be neither fully separate nor completely together, Thera explained as the soldiers began testing the strength of the energy field. Two beings linked across incompatible worlds, keeping the timelines from fracturing further. An eternal connection, Elliot realized. But never a complete one. Yes, she confirmed, tears flowing freely now, each one absorbed by the spinning matrix. Infinite longing without complete fulfillment. That is the price. Around them, the temporal field began to fluctuate as the matrix approached critical mass. The soldiers retreated, sensing the imminent release of unknown energy. Elliot thought of his life before Thera, the lonely observatory, the academic papers that seemed so important then, the emptiness he'd filled with work. Then he thought of what she had shown him, universes of possibility, time as a fluid dimension rather than a rigid progression, love that transcended physical form. I choose this, he said firmly, placing his hands alongside hers on the matrix. I choose you. Their final kiss tasted of stardust and sacrifice. As their lips met, the matrix between their bodies flared with blinding light. Elliot felt himself simultaneously expanding and contracting, his consciousness stretching across impossible distances while his physical form remained rooted. The soldiers and Nadia shielded their eyes as the temporal wave expanded outward from the embracing figures. When the light receded, the laboratory appeared unchanged except for the crystalline matrix, now pulsing softly on the table. Elliot stood alone, his appearance subtly altered, his eyes now containing faint violet flecks, his fingertips occasionally shimmering with iridescence when caught in certain light. Of Thera, there was no sign, and yet he could feel her consciousness intertwined with his own, a presence just beyond the veil of normal perception. In quiet moments, he could still hear her voice, see through her eyes as she moved through her crystalline world, feel her experiences as she felt as. Two beings, two worlds, connected by tears that contain fragments of time itself. The military classified everything, of course. Nadia's laboratory was commandeered, the matrix studied but never fully understood. Elliot returned to his observatory with special government monitoring, forever changed. On clear nights, he would stand beneath the stars and weep his own tears, ordinary human droplets that nevertheless carried echoes of stardust. And somewhere across the universe, in a reality partially fused with his own, an alien woman with violet eyes looked up at different constellations and wept luminescent tears that contained fragments of a human soul. Neither fully separated, nor completely united, an impossible love stretched across the cosmos, holding together the fragile fabric of time itself.